Get
The
back,
prison
all of you!
cameras had
He's
recorded
armed!
every second.
We need
At
backup
exactly
on the main
2:13
corridor now.
in the morning, the lights
Don't let him
inside
get past the
Blackwater
gate.
State Prison flickered 2 times. Guards rushed through the dark hallway while alarms screamed across the building. Prisoners shouted from behind steel bars. Somewhere deep inside cell block D, a man was standing perfectly still in front of his cell door. For 12 years, inmate Daniel Mercer had barely spoken. He never caused trouble.
Control,
Never fought.
this is Unit 4.
Never yelled. Never joined
We have a breach
prison
in cell
gangs.
block D. Send
Guards
immediate
called him
assistance.
the Ghost because he moved quietly and kept his eyes on the floor. Most people forgot he was even there. But tonight was different. The prison camera showed Daniel slowly lifting his head toward the security camera for the very first time in years. Then he smiled. Not a normal smile. A cold smile. The kind that made people uncomfortable. Officer Ray Cole watched the screen from the security room and felt his stomach twist. He had worked at Blackwater for 23 years. He had seen killers, robbers, and dangerous gang leaders. But something about Daniel Mercer scared him more than all of them. Then the camera glitched. Just for 1 second. When the picture came back, Daniel was no longer standing inside his cell. The door was still locked. Officer Cole froze. "That's impossible," he whispered. The camera moved again. Somewhere down the hallway, heavy footsteps echoed through the prison. Then another camera turned on automatically. It showed something that made Officer Cole stumble backward in horror. A prison guard was lying motionless on the floor. And standing beside him was Daniel Mercer, holding the guard's radio, looking directly into the camera. Then the screen suddenly went black. Nobody in Blackwater Prison knew what Daniel Mercer was about to do next. And the worst part? This was not an escape attempt. It was something much bigger. 12 years earlier, Daniel Mercer arrived at Blackwater State Prison during a thunderstorm. Rain crashed against the prison walls while lightning flashed across the sky. 2 officers escorted him through the front gates in heavy chains. Back then, Daniel was only 32 years old. He had been sentenced for armed robbery connected to the death of a gas station clerk named Walter Hayes. Daniel always claimed he never pulled the trigger, but the jury did not believe him. The newspapers called him the silent accomplice. During his first week in prison, everyone expected trouble. New inmates usually fought to survive. Blackwater was dangerous. Fights broke out almost every day. The air smelled like sweat, bleach, and rusted metal. But Daniel acted differently. He stayed quiet. Very quiet. He read books from the library. Cleaned his cell carefully every morning. Ate alone. Spoke only when guards asked direct questions. Other prisoners tried to test him. One giant inmate named Marcus Reed cornered Daniel in the cafeteria one afternoon. "You think you're better than us?" Marcus asked. Daniel calmly shook his head. Marcus shoved him hard. Daniel fell against a table, but he still said nothing. The cafeteria became silent. Everyone expected Daniel to fight back. But he simply picked up his tray and walked away. After that day, people stopped bothering him. Years passed. 1 year became 5. 5 became 12. The guards almost forgot Daniel existed. But Officer Ray Cole noticed strange things. Small things at first. Daniel always seemed to know when surprise cell inspections were coming. He avoided dangerous inmates before fights happened. Sometimes he stared at security cameras longer than normal, almost like he was studying them. Once, Officer Cole asked him, "Why do you always watch the cameras?" Daniel gave a tiny shrug. "Just curious," he said softly. Those were the longest words Officer Cole had ever heard him speak. Then strange accidents started happening around Blackwater. A security gate opened by itself for 7 seconds. The prison phone system shut down for 1 hour. A storage room alarm turned off in the middle of the night. Nobody could explain it. The prison blamed old wiring and broken equipment. But Officer Cole was not convinced. One rainy evening, he checked Daniel's prison records again. Something caught his attention immediately. Daniel Mercer had worked as a security systems technician before his arrest. Officer Cole leaned back slowly. For 12 years, Daniel had acted weak, quiet, and harmless. But suddenly, Officer Cole realized something terrifying. Maybe Daniel Mercer had never been quiet because he was afraid. Maybe he had been waiting. And at that exact moment, deep inside cell block D, every prison light suddenly shut off at once. The screaming began immediately. Darkness swallowed Blackwater State Prison in seconds. Prisoners screamed from their cells. Metal doors rattled loudly as inmates slammed against them in panic. Emergency alarms echoed through the building like giant sirens. Red backup lights flashed across the hallways, painting the prison walls in blood-colored shadows. Officer Ray Cole grabbed his flashlight and ran out of the security room. "Get back up to cell block D," he shouted into his radio. Static answered him. The radios were dead. His heart pounded harder. That was no accident. As guards rushed through the prison, inmates shouted wild rumors through the bars. "Someone escaped. A guard got killed. The doors are opening." Fear spread faster than fire. Meanwhile, deep inside cell block D, Daniel Mercer walked calmly through the shadows. No chains. No panic. No rushing. Just slow, careful steps. The emergency lights flashed across his face every few seconds. His expression never changed. In one hand, he carried the unconscious guard's radio. In the other, he held a small metal keycard. The same kind only prison staff could carry. Daniel stopped beside a locked steel door marked, "Authorized personnel only." He swiped the card. The door buzzed open. Inside was a narrow maintenance hallway hidden behind the prison walls. Pipes ran across the ceiling. Electrical wires covered both sides like spider webs. The air smelled hot and dusty. Daniel walked deeper inside like he already knew the way. Because he did. Far above him, Officer Cole reached the security office again. Two guards stood near the doorway, breathing hard. "All camera feeds are broken," one guard said nervously. "What about backup systems?" Cole snapped. "Offline too." Cole looked at the dark monitors. Then one screen suddenly flickered back to life. Cell block D appeared. The hallway was empty. But one thing caught Cole's attention immediately. Daniel's cell door was still locked from the outside. Cole stared at it in confusion. "That makes no sense," he whispered. Another guard pointed at the screen. "Zoom in." Cole leaned closer. His blood turned cold. Inside Daniel's cell, sitting perfectly still on the bed, was a fake body made from folded blankets. Daniel had tricked the cameras. 4 years. Maybe longer. Cole immediately remembered something else. 3 months ago, prison workers repaired ventilation systems near cell block D. During repairs, inmates stayed locked inside their cells for 2 days. Daniel had been there the entire time. Watching. Learning. Planning. "Oh my God," Cole muttered. He mapped the prison. Before anyone could speak again, the lights flickered harder. Sparks exploded from one control panel beside the wall. Smoke filled the room. Then every cell door in the east wing suddenly unlocked at once. A loud metallic clank echoed through the prison. For 1 second, there was silence. Then chaos exploded. Prisoners rushed into the hallways yelling and shoving each other. Some attacked guards. Others simply ran. Sirens screamed louder than before. Officer Cole grabbed his flashlight tightly. "Lock the outer gates now," he yelled. But deep down, he already knew this was bigger than a normal prison riot. This was planned. Somewhere inside the hidden maintenance halls, Daniel stopped at another locked door. He reached into his prison shirt pocket and removed something tiny. A screwdriver. Small enough to hide for years. He calmly unscrewed a metal panel beside the door. Wires hung inside. Daniel connected 2 of them together carefully. The door clicked open. On the other side was the prison surveillance archive room. Thousands of recorded camera files were stored there. Daniel stepped inside quietly and closed the door behind him. Rows of blinking servers filled the room with soft humming sounds. Daniel walked straight toward one computer. Like he had done this before. He typed quickly. Folders opened across the screen. Years of prison footage. Officer reports. Guard schedules. Hidden files. Then Daniel opened one video labeled Incident 47 Restricted Access. For the first time in years, emotion appeared on his face. Anger. Real anger. The video began playing silently on the screen. Daniel watched carefully. A younger prison guard appeared in the footage. Beside him stood two inmates dragging another prisoner across a hallway floor. The prisoner was covered in blood. Daniel's jaw tightened. The injured inmate lifted his face weakly toward the camera. Officer Cole suddenly burst into the archive room doorway with two armed guards behind him. "Step away from the computer!" Cole shouted. Daniel slowly turned around. His eyes looked completely different now. Not weak. Not scared. Focused. Like a man who had finally stopped pretending. "You should watch the video," Daniel said calmly. Cole raised his flashlight toward the screen. The moment he saw the injured prisoner's face, his expression changed instantly. Because the bleeding inmate in the video was someone everyone believed had died 12 years ago. Walter Hayes. The gas station clerk from Daniel Mercer's case. The man Daniel was supposedly convicted of helping murder. And Walter Hayes was still alive in the footage. Officer Ray Cole stared at the computer screen in shock. The room suddenly felt smaller. Hotter. Impossible thoughts raced through his mind. Walter Hayes was supposed to be dead. That was the entire reason Daniel Mercer had been sent to prison. But the man in the video was clearly alive. Bruised badly. Bleeding. Terrified. One of the guards beside Cole whispered, "That can't be him." But it was. The timestamp on the footage made everything worse. The video had been recorded 2 days after Daniel's arrest. 12 years ago. Cole slowly looked toward Daniel. "You knew about this?" he asked carefully. Daniel gave a small nod. "For 12 years," he answered. The prison alarms still screamed outside. Footsteps thundered through nearby hallways. Somewhere in the building, inmates were still fighting guards. But inside the archive room, nobody moved. Cole looked back at the screen. The younger guard in the video shoved Walter Hayes into a chair. Walter could barely hold his head up. One eye was swollen shut. Then another man stepped into the camera view. Officer Cole froze again. He recognized him immediately. Warden Thomas Grady, the former warden of Blackwater Prison. The man had retired 6 years earlier and moved away quietly. In the video, Warden Grady leaned close to Walter and said something silently. Then one inmate punched Walter hard in the stomach. Cole felt sick. "What is this?" one guard whispered. Daniel stepped closer to the screen. "My trial was fake," he said quietly. "Walter Hayes survived the robbery. He could have proved I didn't kill anyone." Cole turned toward him sharply. "Then why didn't he testify?" Daniel's eyes darkened. "Because someone made sure he disappeared." Thunder rumbled outside the prison walls. Rain smashed against distant windows. The old archive room lights flickered weakly above them. Daniel pressed another key on the computer. A second video opened. This one showed Walter Hayes sitting alone in a dark room. His face looked thinner, more frightened. A date appeared on the corner of the screen. 3 months after Daniel's conviction. Walter looked directly into the camera. "They told me if I talked," he said weakly, "my family would disappear too." Officer Cole's stomach dropped. The room became silent again. Then suddenly, bang! A loud explosion shook the hallway outside. Dust fell from the ceiling. One guard grabbed his radio instinctively before remembering the radios were still dead. Another explosion echoed somewhere deeper in the prison. The riots were spreading. Cole looked toward Daniel again. "You caused all this just to show me these videos?" Daniel's face remained calm. "No," he said. "Then what do you want?" Daniel looked directly at him. "The truth." For a moment, Cole believed him. Then emergency lights flashed harder across the room. A voice suddenly blasted through the prison speakers. "All security teams report immediately to the East Yard. Repeat, all teams." The message cut off with loud static. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "That's strange," he whispered. Cole frowned. "What?" Daniel slowly backed away from the computer. That voice wasn't live. Before Cole could respond, the archive room door slammed shut behind them. Heavy locks clicked automatically. One of the guards rushed over and pulled the handle. It's locked. The lights flickered again. Then every monitor inside the archive room turned on at once. Dozens of camera feeds filled the walls. Hallways, cells, guard stations, the prison yard. And one camera showed something terrifying. A group of armed men dressed as prison officers were entering Blackwater through the underground delivery tunnel. But they were not real guards. Their uniforms were wrong. Their movements were military. One carried a shotgun. Another carried zip ties. Officer Cole stepped closer to the screen in horror. Who are they? Daniel's expression became colder than ever. They're the reason Walter Hayes disappeared. Cole looked confused. What are you talking about? Daniel pointed toward the fake guards. They worked with Warden Grady 12 years ago. Corrupt guards. Smugglers. They used Blackwater to move money and stolen goods through prison transport trucks. Cole felt his chest tighten. And Walter found out. Daniel nodded slowly. He saw faces during the robbery. Important faces. People connected to Blackwater. The guards beside Cole looked nervous now. One whispered, "Why come back tonight?" Daniel's voice lowered. "Because somebody inside this prison contacted them." At that exact second, one of the camera feeds zoomed automatically toward the prison control room. A single man stood inside, watching every screen calmly. Officer Cole's face turned pale. "No." The man turned toward the camera slowly. Assistant Warden Richard Vance. One of the highest-ranking officers in Blackwater Prison. And in his hand was a pistol. Then Vance smiled into the camera and spoke directly through the prison speakers. "Daniel Mercer," he said calmly, "you should have stayed quiet." The prison speakers crackled with static. Then silence. Officer Ray Cole felt frozen in place. Assistant Warden Richard Vance had been working inside Blackwater for almost 15 years. Guards trusted him. Prison staff respected him. He shook hands with politicians during prison tours and gave speeches about safety and justice. And now he was standing in the control room with a gun. Smiling. One of the guards beside Cole stepped backward slowly. "You're saying Vance was part of this the whole time?" Daniel Mercer kept his eyes on the screen. "Yes." The fake guards on the camera feeds moved deeper into the prison tunnels. They carried flashlights and weapons. One of them stopped beside a security door and entered a code. Like he had done it before. Officer Cole looked at Daniel again. "How do you know all this?" Daniel finally answered the question he had avoided for 12 years. "Because I used to work for them." The room became dead silent. Even the screaming outside felt far away for one moment. Cole stared at him carefully. "What?" Daniel lowered his head. 12 years ago, I repaired security systems for transport companies. That's how I met Richard Vance and Warden Grady." Rain hammered against the prison roof above them. Daniel continued quietly. "They paid me to install hidden systems inside delivery trucks. Cameras. Secret locks. Radio blockers. I thought it was private security work." "But it wasn't," Cole said slowly. Daniel shook his head. "No. They were stealing evidence, moving illegal money, and using prison trucks to hide everything." Cole felt anger rise inside him. "And the robbery?" Daniel's face tightened. "That night was supposed to be simple. Pick up a package. Deliver it. No violence." "But somebody died," one guard whispered. Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes. But not by me." He looked toward Walter Hayes on the frozen video screen. Walter recognized Richard Vance during the robbery. That's why they couldn't let him speak. Cole finally understood. Daniel had never been silent because he was weak. He had stayed alive by pretending to be invisible. For 12 years. Suddenly, the prison speakers turned on again. "Mr. Mercer," Vance said calmly, "you've caused enough trouble tonight." Another camera feed appeared. A woman sat tied to a chair inside a dark office. Officer Cole immediately recognized her. Reporter Emily Carter. The journalist who had visited Blackwater 2 weeks earlier asking questions about missing prison records. One of the guards gasped. "Oh no!" Vance's voice echoed through the speakers again. She was very curious about your case, Daniel. Just like Walter Hayes. Daniel's calm expression cracked for the first time. Anger flashed across his face. What did you do to her? He demanded. Vance chuckled softly. You still care about innocent people. That's always been your weakness. Cole looked between the screens rapidly. Where is she? Vance ignored him. Here's what's going to happen, Vance continued. You will walk alone to the South Maintenance Tunnel. No guards, no weapons, or the reporter disappears forever. The speaker clicked off. One guard cursed under his breath. This whole prison is under his control. Daniel stepped away from the computer. No, he said quietly. He's scared. Cole frowned. Scared of what? Daniel looked directly at him. Those videos are proof. He pointed toward the archive servers. For 12 years, Vance believed all evidence was destroyed. Tonight he found out he was wrong. Cole's mind raced. If the footage reached the police outside Blackwater, everything would collapse. The corruption, the fake conviction, the missing witnesses. All of it. Then the archive room lights suddenly died. Pitch darkness filled the room. 1 second later, bang! A gunshot exploded outside the door. The guards instantly raised their weapons. Another gunshot echoed through the hallway. Someone screamed. Flashlights bounced wildly under the crack beneath the door. They found us, one guard whispered. The metal door suddenly shook from a heavy impact. Bang! Again. Dust rained from the ceiling. Another hit. Bang! The lock started bending inward. Cole grabbed Daniel's arm roughly. You know these tunnels better than anyone. Is there another exit? Daniel nodded once. Behind the server racks. The guards quickly pushed shelves aside while the pounding on the door grew louder. Bang! A crack split across the metal. One more hit would destroy it. Daniel pulled open a hidden panel behind the servers. A narrow tunnel appeared behind it, dark and tight. Cole aimed his flashlight inside. Where does it lead? Daniel answered quietly. The old prison hospital. The door behind them exploded inward. Armed men rushed into the archive room shouting orders. Flashlights blinded the room. Gunfire erupted instantly. Cole shoved Daniel toward the tunnel. Move! They crawled into the darkness as bullets slammed into the server racks behind them. Sparks exploded everywhere. The hidden panel began closing slowly. Right before it shut completely, Officer Cole looked back one last time and saw something horrifying. One of the armed men removed his mask. Officer Cole recognized him immediately. The man was supposed to be dead. Former Warden Thomas Grady. Officer Ray Cole could not believe what he had just seen. Thomas Grady was alive. For 6 years, everyone believed the former warden had retired and disappeared quietly. Some people even thought he had died overseas. But there he was. Older. Gray-haired. Holding a rifle inside Blackwater Prison. The hidden tunnel door slammed shut behind Daniel, Cole, and the 2 guards. Bullets crashed against the metal as the armed men shouted on the other side. Hurry! One guard yelled. The narrow tunnel smelled like rust and mold. Pipes dripped water from the ceiling while emergency lights flashed dim red every few seconds. Daniel moved quickly through the darkness like he had memorized every inch of the prison. Because he had. For 12 years, he had studied every hallway, every vent, every weak spot. Not to escape. To survive long enough for the truth to come out. Behind them, loud banging echoed through the tunnel walls. Grady's men were trying to break through. Officer Cole ran beside Daniel. You knew Grady was alive? Daniel nodded once. I saw clues in hidden prison files years ago. Money transfers. Signed documents. Someone was still giving orders from outside Blackwater. And you waited all this time? Daniel looked straight ahead. No one would believe a prisoner. The group finally reached an old metal staircase leading upward. A faded sign hung above it. Prison hospital closed. Cole pushed the door open carefully. The abandoned hospital was silent. Dust-covered broken beds and old medical carts. Moonlight slipped through cracked windows. The storm outside was getting worse. One guard checked the hallway. All clear. Then a weak voice suddenly came from nearby. Help! Everyone froze. The voice came from one of the hospital rooms. Daniel rushed forward first. Inside the room sat Emily Carter, tied to a chair exactly like on the camera feed. Her face was bruised, but she was alive. "Oh, thank God," she whispered. Cole quickly untied her while Daniel searched the room carefully. Emily looked at Daniel with wide eyes. "You were telling the truth," she said shakily. "About everything." Daniel said nothing. Emily turned toward Cole. "I copied files before they caught me. Real files. Financial records. Prison transfers. Names." Cole's eyes widened. "Where are they?" Emily pointed weakly toward the ceiling. "In the air vent." One guard climbed onto a desk and pulled down the vent cover. Inside was a small flash drive wrapped in tape. Cole grabbed it carefully. This could expose all of them. Suddenly, slow clapping echoed through the hallway outside. Everyone turned. Richard Vance stood in the doorway holding a pistol. Behind him stood Thomas Grady and two armed men. The prison storm flashed through broken windows behind them. Vance smiled coldly. 12 years, he said. "And this is how it ends." The guards raised their weapons instantly, but Grady's men aimed rifles back. Nobody moved. Emily trembled beside the hospital bed. Cole stepped forward slowly. "You framed an innocent man." Vance shrugged. Daniel Mercer was useful. Quiet people are easy to bury. Grady glared at Daniel hatefully. "You should have taken your sentence and stayed invisible." Daniel finally stepped forward. For the first time, there was no fear in his face. "You ruined innocent lives." Vance laughed softly. "Innocent?" He pointed toward Daniel. "You helped us once too." Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes." The room became quiet. "But I never killed anyone." For 1 second, nobody spoke. Then Emily suddenly shouted, "The cameras are live!" Everyone looked up. A small emergency security camera blinked red in the hospital corner. Still recording. Still connected. Vance's face changed instantly. Cole realized what that meant. The prison systems were coming back online. Everything happening inside this room was being recorded. The confessions. The weapons. All of it. Vance raised his pistol angrily toward the camera. But Daniel moved first. He slammed an old medical cart directly into Vance. The gun fired loudly into the ceiling. Guards tackled Grady's armed men while Cole wrestled Vance to the floor. The abandoned hospital exploded into chaos. Emily crawled behind a bed for safety. One guard punched Grady hard against the wall while another kicked away a rifle sliding across the floor. Vance fought wildly, trying to reach his gun again. Then Daniel grabbed him first. The room suddenly became still. Daniel pointed the pistol downward. Not at anyone. Just holding it tightly. Vance stared at him. "Go ahead," he sneered. "Do it." Daniel's hands shook slightly. For 12 years, anger had lived inside him like a fire. 12 years stolen from his life. 12 years of silence. But slowly, Daniel lowered the gun. "No," he said quietly. "You don't get to turn me into you." Seconds later, prison sirens changed tone outside. Real police had finally arrived. The nightmare was over. 3 months later, Blackwater State Prison was shut down during a federal investigation. Richard Vance and Thomas Grady were sentenced for corruption, kidnapping, conspiracy, and multiple violent crimes connected to the prison network. Walter Hayes was finally found alive under witness protection in another state. His testimony officially cleared Daniel Mercer's name. After 12 years, Daniel walked out of prison a free man. News reporters crowded outside the courthouse, shouting questions at him. But Daniel stopped only once before leaving. A young reporter asked softly, "Why did you stay quiet for so long?" Daniel looked toward the cameras calmly. Then he gave the same small smile from the prison footage. "Because sometimes," he said, "quiet people hear everything.